What is up, Raidernation? It's your boy Clara, back at it again with yet another pregame preview for this Week 2 matchup between our Las Vegas Raiders and the Santa Clara 49ers in the Battle of the Mandalay Bay. Now, I know that this is just preseason, and usually I will say that preseason really doesn't matter, but when it comes down to these two teams, it's just win, baby. The Raiders have to win this not because, we're going to win the Super Bowl or whatnot, but we have to win this for bragging rights. And this is like the only time we get to play the 49ers. And I know that there's going to be a lot of faithfuls coming over here to Las Vegas for the very first game of the 2025 season here at Allegiant Stadium. We got to send their ass back home with the tails between their legs. That being said, though, if this is the very first time you guys are coming across this channel and you love Raiders content just like this, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification icon button to notify you guys when I upload more videos like this. Now, you guys already know the deal. We cannot start a pregame preview without giving you guys your Nation news. Now, first bit of news, I know it's going to be kind of a sad one, but my condolences to Cheryl Nichols' family. The Raiders released a statement earlier today saying that the Raiders family is deeply saddened by the passing of Cheryl Nichols, a longtime employee and administrator whose career spanned over 5 decades with the Silver and Black. An integral part of the team's front office, Cheryl was instrumental in administering the organization's facilities for many years, including the team's current headquarters in Henderson. An amazing teammate with talents that shine throughout her years with the Raiders, Cheryl was the most loyal friends and will forever be a loved and cherished part of the Raiders family. The prayers of the Raider Nation are with her children, Kimberly and Mark, and the entire Nichols family during this difficult time. As I said before, nothing but prayers, and I wish nothing but the best for her family that is mourning her loss. If there's anything that we know about being Raider fans and supporting this team, is there's nothing closer than family, and she definitely was part of that family. So my condolences. Moving on to some other bit of news though. Rich Gannon was seen at Raiders training camp yesterday, and we got to see him. I was like, damn, my boy looked a little bit old out there, almost looking like Pete Carroll. But it was great to see him around, just seeing the team and just having his presence there. Now, he did get to sit down and speak to the Raiders, and he kind of gave his 2 cents on how he feels about Geno Smith, and he does believe that Geno will have a successful career with the Raiders, quite like he did years ago.
So, it took him a while to kind of find his rhythm. But he has settled in. He's played some great football the last couple of years. I think he's on the right trajectory, and I just think, those experiences, the adversity that he went through early in his career, I think have benefited him. I think he brings a lot. The thing I love about Geno, he brings a lot of physical and mental toughness to the position. He's a tough guy. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a guy that could be really, really good late in games where it matters the most.
And I hope for that same success, because we all know that Rich Gannon had some of his best years with the Oakland Raiders. Heck, he had even an MVP season. So if we could get somewhat of that out of Geno Smith with this team, then that means we're going in the right direction. Heck, just getting into the playoffs, I feel like would be a huge win for this team. And Geno Smith is going to be the guy that we hope can pioneer that. And since we're riding on a high, I want to talk about another player that's been getting some love out there in the Silver and Black. That guy is newly acquired defensive tackle Thomas Booker. Now, according to Sean Reed, it seems like in his short time with the Raiders, Thomas Booker has impressed so far since being traded from the Eagles for cornerback Jacorian Bennett. Now, the coaching staff has also praised Booker for being a quick learner and an immediate contributor for the team on the defensive line. Not only that, Max Crosby has even said that Booker has been flying since day one and hasn't slowed down yet. Booker remains to be on a steady pace to earn himself a starting job next to Adam Butler on the defensive line. Now, this is definitely some great news to hear for a guy that just joined the team, and heck, even in his first game, he was a guy that stood out to not only me, but the rest of the Raider Nation, and that was just with a couple of days with the team. Now, what does this mean for other guys like Tyree Wilson or even Jonah Laulu, who I'm rooting for to go out there and ball out? Well, it means that it's going to be a competition no matter what. Even though Jonah Laulu is a real close friend of mine, I don't think that he really showed out in the first game, but that could possibly be first game jitters. We'll see how Thomas Booker looks in this next game and see if he can creep into that starting lineup. And if he can be that diamond in the rough for this team, then that's a win-win. As long as we have the best players out there, we'll have the best results that we can get. Now moving on to the next segment of this video, I'm going to be going over the top storylines going into this game. Now the first storyline will be, how will this offensive line hold up? Now I know that last week the offensive line kind of struggled early on in the game, especially when we had Ashton Jeanty in there. And we know that if we want the Raiders to succeed or have any type of success this season, the offensive line has got to step up and definitely block for Geno Smith and whoever's going to be running out of the backfield, of course, Ashton Jeanty. I know that the Raiders have been shuffling around some of their offensive linemen. I know Jordan Merritt, JPJ, we still got DJ Glaze out there. Of course, we know that Colton Miller and Dylan Parham is going to be starting on the left side of the line, but Pete Carroll has already said that he's going to be working with a lot of these players and seeing what lineup is going to be the best going into week 1. So definitely offensive line has got to step up in this game, especially against a defensive line that could possibly cause some pressure on Geno Smith. That said, going into my next storyline is going to be looking at the first team unit. Again, like I said before, the first team unit didn't really look good last week coming out the gates. Geno Smith only played in 1 drive, and we didn't really get to see much out of that. Ashton Jeanty played in 2 drives, and we didn't really get to see much out of him. Pete Carroll has already stated that the starters will be starting in this game, but we don't know how long they're going to be playing. So I hope that if we get 1 drive out of them, that they look explosive, that they look good, that we could drive down the field and maybe score a point, touchdown, whatever it may be, something better than what we had last week. That's all we're asking for. This is going to be the first time that we get to see Pete Carroll's Raiders here in Las Vegas in front of the Raider Nation at Allegiant Stadium. So I want to see if they could keep that energy going into this game. Of course, Pete Carroll's going to bring that energy. Of course, guys like Max Crosby's going to bring that energy. But with the Raider fans intact, with the quote-unquote home field advantage over here in Las Vegas, can they live up to the hype that we've been hyping them up to all off-season long? So I definitely want to see this team, especially this first team unit, come out swinging. I know we started off slow last week, like I said before, but looking at what this team did in the second half, that's the team that I want to see. That second half energy from the Seahawks game, go and start off the game just like that. Heck, when the Raiders got their shit together in the second half, we scored 20 points. We only scored 3 points in the first half last week. We scored 20 points in the second half last week, and now going into this game and seeing how explosive this offense looked at joint practice with Geno Smith finding guys like Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker, Ashton Jeanty, can we at least see some of that in the first half of this game? Heck, whenever the starters are out there. And speaking of the offensive side of the ball, another big storyline is going to be who will come out as the quarterback 2. Now, we know that it's kind of like a close race. We know that Aiden O'Connell, I think on paper, is the quarterback 2, but Cam Miller really showed out last week in the little time that he had more than Aiden O'Connell. And we know how much Aiden O'Connell struggled in the last game, throwing 2 interceptions in the first half. But I will give Aiden O'Connell some credit. He came out in the second half and looked a lot better. Now, I know that the Raiders are going to be going into this game like last game with a basic vanilla offense. So even with that, we've seen a better team in the second half of last week, and we've seen the offensive line kind of hold up a little bit better in the second half. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of his, I'm not going to give up on him entirely, especially just after that last game. Now, if he does shit the bed in this game again, then that's when I feel like the questions will definitely skyrocket. But Cam Miller is definitely going to be a guy I'm really excited to see. And if he could keep that same energy from last week going into this week, then he's going to give this team a really tough time in picking who the QB2 will be moving into week 3. And the last big storyline going into this game is, will the defense step up? Again, going back to last week, we seen how bad this run defense was, and it was really frustrating. It really had me feeling like, damn, man, when can we get anything right over here? And we know the defense has always been the Raiders' Achilles heel. Max Crosby can't do everything out there, and the missed tackles have got to be cleaned up in this game, and there is no excuse for that. No matter if they're playing their first, second, third strings out there, we have to tackle. And seeing the joint practice yesterday with the Raiders and the Niners, our defense was lacking. And I hope and pray that they at least go into this game looking a lot better than they did against the Niners, because Brock Purdy was lighting our ass up out there. So with that said, those are going to be the biggest storylines I have going into this game. Now, this next segment, I'm going to be looking at some of the players to keep an eye on in this game. Of course, we know that preseason is where a lot of these players are going to be fighting for, a spot on the roster. Heck, even fighting for a spot on the depth chart to move up and maybe get some playing time once the season does come. So that being said, players that I'm going to be looking out for, number 1 definitely is going to be Ashton Jeanty. Now, last week, he had 3 carries, -1 yards. didn't look good. Some of that can be blamed on the offensive line. Some of that could be on Ashton Jeanty for not finding the right hole. At the end of the day, we want to see a lot more out of our first round pick. And with all the hype that we have on Ashton Jeanty, can we at least see him look a little bit explosive in this game? At joint practice yesterday, Ashton Jeanty broke off for a huge touchdown run, and that was just a snippet of what we can possibly expect out of him this season. So Ashton Jeanty, he's going to be playing. We don't know how long he's going to be playing. Will he be bending over or standing up like Michael Myers? I don't know. We don't know how. Did I say Mayer? I mean Myers. But Ashton Jeanty, definitely I want to see him step up. Another player that I'm going to keep an eye on is definitely Trey Tucker. Yesterday, he proved why he still could be one of those top receivers on this roster right now. And with the speed that he has and with the quickness that he has getting off the line of scrimmage, he can definitely be a weapon for Geno Smith downfield. And we've seen it yesterday, a huge touchdown pass to Trey Tucker. Now, I know he struggled with a little bit of drops early on, but he definitely showed up when we needed him to. And with a crowded wide receiver room that seems to be all over the place outside of Jacoby Myers, he's definitely going to be somebody to keep a close eye on. Another player that I really want to look at is Kyle Blue Kelly. Last week, he looked pretty solid, and then we've been hearing nothing but great things from Kyle Blue Kelly at practices. He had interceptions, and he's been working his way up the depth chart according to multiple sources. So I want to see how well he looks out there. Now, another player I want to see in this game that I hope can, continue that great play that he had last week is Jamal Adams. We've seen how explosive he looked last week against the Seattle Seahawks. Can he replicate that in this game? Even if it's 1, 2, 3 tackles, can he still show his presence out there and at least pass the eye test? If he's as good as we all think he is, then I expect him to make a couple more plays in this game, and I definitely would love to see him be a starter once the season does come around. And the last player to watch in this game is defensive tackle Tonka Hemingway. Now, it seems like Hemingway has been turning heads at camp and has also caught the eye of our star pass rusher, Max Crosby.
Yeah, I'm probably one of the highest dudes about Tonka. Like, every time I talk about him, I got nothing good things to say because he's super quiet, but he's starting to finally break out of his shell a little bit. But his play speaks for itself. I mean, he's getting better and better every day. He's twitchy, he's strong, he's got moves, he uses his moves in team and in one-on-ones and things like that, and he just continues to get better. So I think Tonka is going to be a guy he's going to be in the rotation, is going to help us a lot.
We know the defensive tackle room is wide open outside of Adam Butler. Like I said, Thomas Booker is starting to, rise up the depth chart. We know that Jonah Laulu is going to be fighting for a spot. And now having a guy like Tonka Hemingway, as far as the rookies, kind of show up right now, maybe he could be the guy that could start once the season does come around. But it all depends on how well he looks in this game. I know last game he had some solid plays here and there, but let's see if he could continue that energy going against the 49ers. So with that said, Raider Nation, who are some players that you guys are going to be keeping a close eye on in this game? Will you guys be over there at the game tomorrow? I'm definitely going to be over there, so you guys can catch me at JLA. I'm going to be vlogging, catching content, so come say what's up, take a picture, whatever it may be, man. I would love to meet you guys, and I just hope that the Raiders can just go out there and win. We need this win just for bragging rights alone, so I'm just really, really happy that football is finally back, and back in the best city in the whole United States of America, Las Vegas, baby. So Allegiant Stadium, it's going to feel real good to be back with some Raiders football and just getting more content for you guys. I will be going live right after the game, so when I get home, touchdown from the game, I'll go live, get you guys' reactions, and I will talk about the whole thing from there on out. That being said, until the next video, this is your boy Simone Raider, and your boy is, yeah.